And we are live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. Thanks for choosing us. This is Joy News Prime. Our headlines this hour. I never said I have granted Dome Kwabena MP permission on health grounds. Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin debunks claims.
Being circulated that I granted an interview to say that Honorable Appiatse received permission from me to absent herself from Parliament on health grounds. I have not granted any such interview anywhere.
And Russia invades Ukraine. Parliament charges government to initiate processes to immediately evacuate Ghanaian students currently stranded in Ukraine.
Safety of Ghanaian students in Ukraine and to work towards the immediate evacuation of Ghanaian students, those studying in Ukraine.
As Deputy Majority Leader calls on the minority to subscribe to the approval of e-levy to aid government to generate the needed funds as well.
The call to evacuate Ghanaian citizens from Ukraine will come at a cost. Ghanaian businesses who are supposed to do well to pay taxes, they are going to suffer. If you're talking about e-levy, this is the more important reason why we even need it.
And first round of talks between UTAG and Fair Wages Commission ends in Accra, with the commission describing the outcome as cordial and hoping that the concerns of UTAG will be resolved.
We are at within early days yet. The parties will have to then decide together what the key issues are, what it will take to resolve the key issues.
In business, Russia-Ukraine conflict. Price of Brent crude soars past the $100 market barrel, the highest in 7 years. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers warns fuel prices could hit 8 cedis 50 pesos in the next pricing window.
We were projecting 8 cedi 20 for the first window March. But if the Russia-Ukraine tensions get sustained, the minimum could be about 8 cedi 50. By the first day of March.
I'm Blessed Sogan. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Stay for details. And tonight, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has denied media reports claiming that he granted Appiatse permission on health grounds, describing the reports as fake news. He says he has received a number of calls from the media. He has never said it anywhere that he granted Dome Kwabena MP permission.
Important, I diffuse some fake news which is being circulated that I granted an interview to say that Honorable Appiatse received permission from me to absent herself from Parliament on health grounds. I want it to be known by all that I have not granted any such interview anywhere. I have not said anything like that anywhere. And the votes and proceedings of the House are so loud that she is absent without permission for all those days. That is on the votes and proceedings of the House. It's not the Speaker who determines who is present and who is absent. No. The votes and proceedings will capture those are present, those are absent, and those who are absent with permission. And so please, I received a lot of calls from a number of media men on that issue. And that's why I don't want to delay in letting the world know that I have not said any such thing anywhere. Please. And tomorrow I'm going to address the issue of absentee MPs very, very clearly for everybody to understand.
And you heard the Speaker there indicating that he's going to crack the whip on absentee MPs. But joining us live on this is Kina Likemani, Director of Programs at Civil Society Group, or DICRO, and also Sami Obeng, Executive Director for Parliamentary Network Africa. Thank you all for joining us. Let me start off with you, Kina. There are growing calls for the embattled MP to return, but given the fact that she is not the only culprit in this case, what difference will her absence make in this case?
You mean she's not the only culprit who is absent?
Precisely. And I'm sure you have data to back that.
Well, we used to compile, but Parliament wasn't doing anything about it. So so first of all, we are glad that the Speaker said he's going to discuss the issue of absenteeism. I think it is high time. Since Ojukro started compiling, one of the new latest developments has been that some of the MPs will not come to Parliament, but they will have someone sign for them in the book that they were present. I think one of the leaders on the majority side had said that, about a year ago, that they'd noticed it. So if the Speaker wants to deal with it, because they are empowered to by the Constitution, and they are empowered to by their standing orders, then it's high time. I don't know. I'm kind of watching this because I think the majority opened the window on the Adra Safo being absent issue, but really her leader, the majority leader, hasn't said anything, and he's the one most likely to say something about it. Of course, if she has been filling the form, it's only a one-page form. If she's refilling the form, then it's with the table's office and it can be verified. So it's not like the Speaker is saying whether you are absent with permission or absent without permission or present. It's not a mysterious thing because it's published every day. The avenues to get permission, absent with permission, is a very simple form. Your leader must also, I think the majority leader will have to have signed it on behalf of Adra Safo, Honorable Adra Safo. So it's not a mysterious thing. It's a very simple procedure, and when you run afoul of it, there are it's clear. You are to be, you appear before a parliamentary committee, right. And sometimes if it's that egregious, a by-election will be called. So we find it very curious, actually, that it was the majority itself that brought up the issue of Honorable Adra Safo's absentee.
And I'm glad that you're already talking about some of the trends which you've observed, but we know that your organization is famed for publishing attendance actually in Parliament itself. What's the latest trend telling you? What are we witnessing?
Well, the latest trend, always, the first time MPs do really well, those that have joint appointments, like the ministers, MPs, they tend to typically struggle a lot because of I'm not going to let them off the hook. They can't seem to manage their time, even getting an assistant to fill the form. And then there are people who are always absent, like Honorable Kennedy Japan. Sometimes he's absent a lot more than others. So it's the trend about absenteeism is always the same until Parliament itself decides to deal with it. And so Odikro, we've told people what it is. It's not going to change until the Speaker deals with it.
All right. So there'll be a need for the Speaker to be high-handed in dealing with this matter. But let's go back to Adra Safo.
Let me say that not necessarily high-handed. I think he's been in Parliament since the beginning of the Fourth Republic. So I think it's an issue of maybe reaching out to the other side and figuring out what they want to do, because I really don't think there is appetite for by-elections.
And I'd wanted to take your thoughts on Adra Safo, particularly because she's at the center of all of this. Last day, at least, we know she was in a leadership position as Deputy Majority Leader. The difference now is that she's not in leadership. But what difference really does it make, and what's the likely impact on parliamentary duties or the House as a lawmaking chamber? Is there any difference? Is there really any impact?
Well, the first thing is about representation. So we don't have a lot of women in leadership. First of all, I think the current makeup is around representation of women in Parliament is maybe 13%. And it was significant that she was in a leadership position. So from the women representation issue, we don't know why she wasn't kept in the same position or even promoted if that was possible. So it's kind of let me use the word curious. the leadership of the majority side has never proffered an explanation why. And I think that given that there aren't many women in leadership positions, they should have at least told somebody, they should have maybe explained themselves, but they didn't. And she has taken, she's agreed by it. As to whether the ways in which she shows her grief is by being absent and going against so openly going against the constitutional provision is something else. But of course, if she was regular in Parliament, then maybe they get to pass the e-levy, without which apparently no government business can happen. I don't know, but it is significant that in this hung Parliament that they get people on the majority. They want their business to move, to get all their people in the seats when and if the bills come up for vote or issues come up for discussion. So this is not a Parliament where if each side needs their numbers, that people should stay back. And I think the opposition has done very well in bringing out their numbers when they expect something to happen. So this is where it's coming from. If NPP had a clear majority, like the 2/3 thing, and there wasn't a hung whatever Parliament, I don't think that this action Honorable Safu is taking may not even, it may not register beyond the fact that we would like more women in leadership positions. But fortunately for her and unfortunately for them, it's the kind of Parliament where people can't, that one side, when they have an issue to move, cannot afford for all their members to be there. So it is significant. It's significant, and her presence there will make an impact.
Kina Likimani, thank you for your time. Sami Obing is Executive Director for PN Africa. Sami, what's your take on this, really? You were calling on the Speaker to crack the whip. It appears that we've lost Sami Obing, but there's a need for us to focus on Parliament because the House has charged government to initiate processes to immediately evacuate Ghanaian students currently stranded in Ukraine. Russia has invaded some territories in Ukraine under rebel control. The development led to the shedding of Ukraine. Some medical students who spoke to Joy News appealed to government for support. Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu on the floor of Parliament asked the government to fly the students back to Ghana.
Of Ghanaian students in Ukraine and to work towards the immediate evacuation of Ghanaian students, those studying in Ukraine. Mr. Speaker, this we must do to assure the students and their parents that they are Ghanaian and they deserve our support. So it's a matter of urgent public importance. I'm indulging you that we raise this matter because the Minister of Finance must make money readily available to the Foreign Minister. We do know the number of Ghanaian students in Ukraine, quite a number studying medicine, probably some even sponsored by members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the situation in Ukraine is very worrying. We won't go into the diplomatic matters related to Ukraine for now until we are guided what Ghana's foreign policy position would be on that matter.
Well, MP for Abuakwa South, Samuel Atacha, who also contributed to the statement, argued that the issue must be treated with all the urgency it deserves.
We can't be sure the way the matters are escalating in Ukraine. If you pay regard to what America is saying and then what Putin himself is saying and the rest of the world, the safety of our people cannot be guaranteed. In these circumstances, I can only say that you don't have to play lottery with their lives, because we don't trust the next military maneuver that is going to come from the Russian leader. And our best bet is that it is good to be educated, but not to die prematurely or to be hurt prematurely. Let's bring them to the place of safety, and when our life returns to normalcy, they could always go back. I heard one student crying seriously that even it is difficult to go for classes. They've told them that they won't have lectures anymore. If that is the state of affairs, why should they be there? Because the teachers are afraid they wouldn't want to go into classrooms.
Well, Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Appiatse, who supported the call, observed that the evacuation will come at a cost and impose pressure on the government's little resources, insisting the minority should subscribe to the approval of the e-levy to aid government generates the needed funds to carry out such an exercise.
Honorable Speaker, the situation in Ukraine is beginning to be a bad one. I had a call from my niece this morning that they didn't even have food to eat, especially those in Kiev. And so if the government will mobilize to have our students or our children brought home as soon as possible, that will help us. They are trying to move to other...
Mr. Speaker, the call to evacuate Ghanaian citizens from Ukraine will come at a cost. No European country will evacuate our citizens for us. No Ghanaians, no European country. NATO will not do that. America will not do that. There is going to be pressure on the limited resources that we have. And as a nation, Ghanaian businesses who are supposed to do well to pay taxes, they are going to suffer. Their businesses will not do well the way they expect. Their projections will be affected. That is the reality. And I must bring this to the attention of all of us, so that any policy that will be brought will be seen in that light. Of course, Honorable Minority Leader, you've not spoken into, Deputy Minority Leader, you've not spoken into the mic. But if you're talking about e-levy, this is the more important reason why we even need it. You are saying you've not spoken into the mic. But if you are talking about the e-levy, that was the next point I was going to get to, that we should congregate around it and find a way of generating revenue as a country to save the situation.
Ghana's Foreign Minister Shirley Ayokoboche has revealed that immediate steps are being taken to safeguard Ghanaian citizens caught up in the tension between Russia and Ukraine. This afternoon, it's been a cry of frustration on the lips of Ghanaians resident in Ukraine. They are desperately looking for food supplies and a safe place to hide as they are unsure of what would happen. Already, Russia has launched a special military operation in Ukraine's eastern Donbas region. But here in Ghana, the authorities are equally concerned about citizens resident in the region. Here's Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayokoboche commenting on the matter.
However, we woke up this morning only to find that Ukraine is under siege, and that means that apart from the fact that a lot has been said, a lot of diplomatic moves have been made to stop the aggression. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked. So we're all waiting to see what will happen. And for us this morning, we're trying to figure out what to do with our nationals who are resident in Ukraine. It's becoming quite difficult from where we sit to move them. So we need to ensure that they are safe and that they are keeping safe. So we're engaged very much on this this morning. So thank you so much for coming.
Now, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission says the opening round of talks between the Commission and UTAG has been cordial, and they expect good faith on both sides to ensure that concerns of UTAG is resolved. UTAG suspended its strike this week and has resumed talks with government on its conditions of service. According to the head of public affairs of the Commission, their wish is to thoroughly deal with the issues of UTAG.
Meeting started today and it was quite cordial. We could not go deep into the issues. It was an introductory meeting. Remember, this is the first time we're meeting since the call of the strike, and following the calling of the strike, Fair Wages was then at liberty to invite them for the engagement process. So that was what happened today. Nothing much. We've not gone into the hard crust yet, but this was how it went. It went about.
It's interesting that you made a last-minute call, if I may call it that way. Pardon me if I'm not referring to it right, but we understand that the meeting was called last night. Is that to say that government is finally seeing reason with the concerns that UTAG has?
Well, government always finds reasons with concerns that any group of workers have. Of course, there have been discussed so letter was actually before then there had been engagements as to the setting of the date for the meeting. Definitely, we couldn't have just written a letter without earlier consultations, just like last night, and expect the members from all around the country to assemble this morning. So there had been earlier engagements.
And so we don't intend to dwell so much on the meeting, but how long will this engagement go on? Because the fear out there and the anxiety on the part of parents as well is that, well, this is another cycle of tussle between government and UTAG. In the end, the students may suffer again. How about that?
Yeah, I understand the concerns that you are expressing, but this is the thing with the conduct of negotiations. No one party is able to say, okay, this is how this meeting, how long this engagement is supposed to run, and this is when we expect it to end. It's a negotiation, and we are at the within early days yet. The parties will have to then decide together what the key issues are, what it will take to resolve the key issues, and then we'll be able to tell how long it's going to run. The important thing is both parties are at the table, are around the table, and that's what all stakeholders have been talking about since they went on strike.
Right, and Dr. Solomon Nunu is joining us now via phone. Good evening, sir. Many thanks for joining us on Joy News Prime. Has this engagement so far, in terms of the meeting, are they meeting the demands in terms of your conditions of service?
Hello, please, the volume of your set is quite low. If you can increase it a little and repeat your question, I'll be grateful.
Dr. Nunu, I'm asking about the fallout from today's meeting. How would you describe today's engagement?
I believe today's engagement has been fruitful. It's a good start. So this is the first day that we have met after the suspension of the strike action. So we believe it's early days yet, but let's give ourselves some time to engage, and we'll be able to specifically state how things have gone so far. So it's early days yet.
And we know, of course, that one of the major concerns has been the major players has not been at the table. Are you satisfied with the representation of government at these meetings now?
For today's meeting, the representation that came, the explanations that was given, everything, I think is satisfactory at this point. And I think it's important that we do engage and then try to build trust again. So this is something that we all need to work over.
Can you give us an update on the voting at your member campuses and how it works?
Okay, currently the voting is going on. It has to do with any time a strike is suspended by the National Security Committee. They need to go ahead and vote the individual campuses on acceptance or otherwise. So the last time I checked, 4 campuses had voted, 2 for the suspension of the strike action and 2 against the suspension of the strike action. So basically, once the voting is completed by all the 15 member campuses, what needs to be done now is to evaluate to see which one is the majority. If the majority says the suspension, they are for the suspension of the strike action, then the implication is that then the strike action stands suspended. Otherwise, then the National Executive Committee needs to convene a special extraordinary meeting for us to sit and decide when to continue with the strike action. So in that case, the National Executive Committee will have to come up with a date for us to go back on strike.
Well, I'm actually asking about how it works because already we are receiving reports of member campuses are rejecting the court ruling and also the agreement that you've had with the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education?
So they are not rejecting agreements with the Parliamentary Select Committee or the court ruling. What they are looking at is the suspension of the strike action. That is what we are looking at here. So it's either you are for the suspension of the strike action or against the suspension of the strike action. So far, as I stated, the last time I checked, 4 campuses had voted, 2 for the suspension and 2 against the suspension.
There are parents who are obviously concerned out there. What's your message to them and what assurances are you able to give them as you have resumed negotiations with government?
I would say this is early days yet. The universities have given dates that the students are to report to campuses and then for lectures to begin. I will encourage them to send their work to school so that they can commence their lectures. I believe one has started today and most of the universities are commencing lectures on Monday. So parents should let their kids come to school so that lectures can begin. I believe when it comes to the voting and its implication, it's early days yet. The most important thing to leadership has to do with the negotiations that has just commenced. We believe that is what will bring something to the pocket of the members, and it's important that we follow through with that one. I'm cautiously optimistic, as I've always said, that in the end, something good may come out of this engagement. If it's negative, then unfortunately, we may have to think through the whole suspension again. But for now, I think the most important thing is to let the engagement go on, negotiate, and then be able to arrive at something that is beneficial to our members.
Professor Solomon Nunu, thank you for joining us on Joy News Prime. Now, still to come in business, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Price of Brent crude soars past the $100 mark a barrel, the highest in 7 years. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers is warning fuel prices could hit 8 cedis 50 pesos in the next pricing window. Stay with us.
Projecting 8 cedi 20 for the first window March. But if the Russia-Ukraine tensions get sustained, the minimum could be about 8 cedi 50 by the first day of March.
It's time for business. I'm Charles Appiatse. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers has warned that fuel prices could witness their highest increase at the pumps in recent times. Brent crude crossed the $100 mark this morning, selling at $105 per barrel on the world market. The rising price of crude oil is of course as a result of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, two biggest producers of crude oil in the world market. The Chamber is projecting that prices at the next pricing window could hit 8 cedis 50 pesos. Executive Secretary of the Chamber, Duncan Amwa, tells Joy Business that government must move fast to cushion consumers as he warns that things could get out of hand.
Major suppliers of crude and LNG is now at war with Ukraine. There's already sanctions being applied across board from NATO and the US. What that means is that the Russian supplies may not go to Europe as much as they were. The Nord Stream bit that has been halted also. There's going to be a challenge.
I mean, already we projected that prices were going to go up. How bad it is going to be? I mean, can we even project about maybe a 10% hike or even a 20% hike as reality strikes? Because we were already expecting that prices were going up because of demand and supply issues. That has been compounded by this. How bad is the situation going to be?
Well, George, you've overnight, since they started bombing last night till this moment, global crude prices have shot up by as much as $6 a barrel within a single day. What that means is that if this is sustained up to the weekend, we'll be crossing $110, almost $120 in no time. Imagine the impact, the effect. If you do about $10 or $15, $20 per metric variance on finished products, petrol and diesel, you are doing almost 3 to 5 pesos. And from what we are seeing, it could go way beyond what our projections were. We were projecting 8 CD20 for the first window March. But if the Russia-Ukraine tensions get sustained, the minimum could be about 8 CD50.
And that's compared there with their prediction on fuel prices. Energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Sulemana warns government to, as a matter of urgency, leverage the hike in global prices to benefit from the windfall. Government pegged $65 for a barrel of crude oil in 2022's budget. Now it has gone past the $100 mark following the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, as Mr. Sulemana believes that the windfall can be used to cushion local consumers against the volatile oil prices. He's been analyzing the impact of the Ukrainian crisis on fuel prices.
This is a global phenomenon, but the impact on local economies the impact on local economy will equally be died depending on the structural arrangement of that particular local economy. And I think this impact will depend, the gravity of the impact will depend on the kind of policies that a particular country put in place.
Great.
Some will be impacted more than others, and I think we are going to be impacted more. Yeah.
And speaking of policies, it begs the question, what should be the contingency plan of government amid these price uncertainties?
Yeah, straightforward. The three things I talked about. Taxes remains one of the credible, variable in this place. But of course, you can see what's going on within our fiscal regime. We are tied up, and I don't know what's going to happen. They could try to look at the taxes, but taxes are only short while. I don't recommend taxes to be. Taxes will only pull down the market temporarily. But we'll come back to this. What do we expect? Just we operate what you call an upstream and downstream. You don't operate these two streams as segregated entities. You have to operate them and link them up seamlessly. All economies that are surviving and that are becoming triumphant in this trajectory are those who are able to link up the upstream and then the downstream. We haven't seen that. The benefits from the upstream should be able to cascade into the downstream. And that's what we need to do.
The Russian invasion, no doubt, has implications on the global economy. The head of finance at the Valley University, Dr. William Sapra, assesses the threat and risks of the crisis on Ghana's oil and financial market.
We are doing the deregulation, so government will not have the right to intervene unless government decides to remove the taxes. So this is going to affect us. In terms of also commerce and movement, where Russia is positioned, sometimes our vessels pass through some of their water bodies, and if they are disturbed, it's going to affect us getting some goods to come in as a country. We may also see freight prices going up because vessels will have to divert their routes to come in. If China decides to back Russia, then our situation will be worse because there will be a shortage because they will come together to form a strong partnership to fight what the West is bringing onto them of these sanctions. So it's not going to be a good news. We also see currencies also having an issue. Already we have inflation in US, Ghana, and Europe, and the rest. So some European countries rely on Russia for business. So if Russia also decides to shut down their economy to some European countries, then the whole global system of finance, they are going to see some major impact. Also, people will also take the advantage in terms of illicit money transfer to use this to do a lot of illegal transactions. When normally wars comes, that is what those who focus on illegal money transfers like. This is also good impact. Ghana, just recently that we were taken out of this flow of illegal flow of funds.
Exactly.
So probably not take care, we will also suffer from that effect.
And we shall still keep monitoring developments to give you updates in terms of analysis on its impact on the Ghanaian economy. But in the meantime, that'll be it for business. We have sports coming up. Do stay with us.
Right, thank you very much for staying with us on the news. Time now for the sport. I'm Gary Al Smith. And still continuing on the tangent of Ukraine and Russia, former world heavyweight boxing champion Vladimir Klitschko has taken to social media to send a message after Vladimir Putin ordered Russian troops into Ukraine as part of a full-scale invasion. He says it is a war without a winner and called on the world to stand behind Ukraine. In Ghana, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Usif, says government is committed to hosting the Africa Games 2023 as it is meant to promote Africanism and to unite the rest of the continent. Now, according to him, sport is a major tool to bring the continent together, and Ghana will serve as a great host for the event.
The African Games is all about bringing the youth of our continent together to exhibit their talents, promote Pan-Africanism among the upcoming generation, and create opportunity to develop friendship through sports. The exposure to other perspective gained during socialization at the African Games makes participants, officials, and spectators more understanding and also tolerant to others' view and interests. The eventual impact on society is that people learn to peacefully coexist and resolve their differences more amicably rather than through violence means. It is for this reason and many more that the government of Ghana and indeed the forefathers of the continent of Africa deem it convenient to establish and support the organization of the African Games since 1965. The objective of the African Games are firstly to complement the United Nations plan of action to transform the world through the Agenda 2030 for sustainable development, and secondly, to contribute to achieving the Africa Union Agenda 2063, the Africa we want.
The countdown to the games is on. In our final story, former Asante Kotoko and Legon City's player Matthew Enimkujo has spoken to Scottish media for the first time. He made his move out of Ghana after not having a good time with the national teams and also having a difficult time adjusting to life in Legon Cities and all that. Let's hear what he's got to say. You can get more sports news on myjoyonline.com, especially what the sporting world is reacting and how to what's happening in Ukraine. Remember, the Champions League, which was supposed to be in St. Petersburg in Russia, has been moved. It will no longer be held there because UEFA think that it's not safe. And all Ukrainian sporting activities have been temporarily suspended because of the invasion. That's the sport for now. I'm Gary Al Smith. Thank you for your time.
And obviously, you know what time it is. It's time to check out what's happening in the world of entertainment. Becky's here.
Pleasant.
Yeah, you're looking
How you
stunning.
doing?
I love the black.
Aww.
Black on black.
I miss you too.
Right.
That's your little way of telling me you miss me.
Well, yeah, indeed. But I'm interested in finding out what's happening in the world of entertainment.
Well, of course, e-levy is still a conversation that is ongoing.
Yeah.
And
Looks
so
like the artists, they don't want to pay.
No, nobody wants to pay. Kelvin Boy is saying that, well, if it happens, he will pay. There's nothing, he can do about it. There's also...
Did you say Kevin Boy?
Kevin Boy. Yeah.
The reports we heard was that he was somewhere off to Nigeria.
Yeah, he's in Nigeria.
Is he running away or?
He's not running away.
Right.
Well, I can't tell if he's running away, but it just happens that he's in Nigeria at the moment. But he was on Hit FM, and a couple of celebs have been talking about the e-levy, the Perez Music as well. So here is Perez Music and Kevin Boy's sake on the e-levy conversation.
Talk about this because it sounds good and it sounds weird too. So I don't think I have.
Are you ready to pay?
You can't say you won't pay. If that thing happen, then you no go say you no go pay.
Do you do mobile money transactions?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
If me play, I go give you more.
So you go pay?
Almost everyone does that. So I feel like it be system now. Maybe we go get used to it. We no go complain again if it works right. Charlie.
Yeah, the whole nation is talking about e-levy.
Yes.
E-levy. I hope you've read about it.
I have.
What's your take on it?
I think it can be handled in a different way, or the government can go about it in a more human way, because times are hard, and I think the timing is wrong. The timing to introduce such a levy is wrong, because now mobile money has become part of our lives, and even up to now people are still getting used to it. It's not everybody who is into it. So if we introduce this e-levy thing now, I think it's going to break the flow. A lot of people are going to lose interest in it, and it's going to actually cost the government more introducing this than actually introducing it, because a lot of people will stop using. A lot of people will stop using it for their transactions, and they'll just go back to the old default way of doing business. And it's not like the old way was bad. It wasn't that bad. There was armed robbers and stuff, and even in the E system there are still fraudsters and stuff, but it's just that it's easier. That's why people are swaying more to that side. So more probably they could take their time. We've not gotten there yet. I don't think the average Ghanaian has gotten to the point where we should be taxed when it comes to e-transactions. That's my opinion.
So is he an economist or an entertainer?
I don't know. Some of them, they speak so well.
Yeah.
They have some in-depth knowledge about
what's happening.
Yeah, they just don't make they just don't talk about it. They actually know what they're talking about. Do you remember Entry?
Give me some background to that.
Okay, so the song Sekina.
Yeah, right.
Or the back in the 2000s.
It made some hits at least for a while.
Of course, I mean, for some years we haven't heard from them. So recently I caught up with one of them called David, and he's been talking about why they haven't been, in the scene for a while. Apparently he got sick. I mean, well,
too bad.
Just keep quiet. Yeah. Here's the conversation I had with David of Entry. So if you're familiar with the song Sekina, Sekina, Sekina,
Brantentem, Sekina, Sekina,
where have you been?
I've been around.
No, you haven't been around.
You see, the fact is I got sick somewhere 2006. And I went through a lot. At the end of the day, it was a man of God who healed my sickness. So I decided, through a man of God, thank you. And I decided to stay in the house of God since 2008.
Okay, so when you said that you decided to be in the house of God, are you now a pastor? Or
I have done a lot to God. I became praise and worship leader. I became an evangelist, and there's something I realized. I realized that there's nothing in doing secular music, so that's why I decided to come back, because I did 3 gospel albums. It didn't fly because I don't know, I can't tell, because I realized that
he's back to secular music, I hope.
I guess it's a matter of calling, right? That's why you don't just get up and do gospel music.
No.
It needs to be a calling. Thanks, Becky, for joining us. And it's a wrap for Showbiz. But also for those of you on Joy Prime, that will be all for now. We'll return on the Joy News channel with more stories. And welcome back. The Ghana Boundary Commission, together with the counterparts from Cote d'Ivoire, have begun discussions on modalities for the full implementation of the ruling on the disputed maritime boundary. The International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea in 2017 ruled in Ghana's favor to explore oil in its sea. Although both countries have accepted the ruling, they are yet to fully implement it. They have therefore been meeting in Ghana to discuss the way forward and to deal with outstanding land border issues. Michael Ashale has more in the following report.
Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire boundary agencies have for the first time met to discuss strategies to deal with common threats to border security. According to the National Coordinator for the Ghana Boundary Commission, Major General Emmanuel Kotia, the meeting aims at developing a mechanism for dealing with boundary challenges, including the destruction, pillars and landmarks.
Yeah, the common challenges have been the interference on our land boundaries, markings in our borders, and this include tempering of pillars and other markings along the international boundary line. But normally when such things happen, we meet our counterparts on the other side and we amicably resolve it. But let me also, people along these boundary areas do not even understand what is a boundary pillar. So sometimes out of human activities like farming and other activities, we find that these pillars are destroyed. Sometimes it can also be removed out of erosion. So there is a need for constant monitoring of these pillars around the country so that we ensure that these pillars are not removed or the pillars are in place.
Since 2017, both countries have been unable to fully implement the ruling of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea regarding its disputed maritime boundaries. Major General Emmanuel Kotia says that the modalities for its implementation will feature strongly in their deliberations.
One of the things that we're going to do in this meeting is to come out with a roadmap of how we would continue the implementation of the ETLOS ruling. But there's nothing wrong. The boundaries, the Côte d'Ivoire has accepted the judgment. It's just that there are issues that must be followed up for the implementation process. And I believe that since this meeting is being held, the implementation will go on and probably will come out with certain modalities that will be able to resolve these things.
The Executive Secretary of the La Côte d'Ivoire National Border Commission, Dia Khalidia Kanoute, explained peculiar administrative challenges have delayed the implementation of the ETLOS ruling. He spoke through a translator.
These are challenges that are common to both countries. Both countries are in agreement for the implementation of the ruling of the ruling from the court. Sometimes elections, constraints, we have other change of government and other government objectives, and sometimes change of there's a change in terms of administrative head of both institutions. But however, there's a firm will today for us to make progress on this issue.
Okay. Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources Benito Owusubio underscored the need for the two countries to deal with outstanding border-related challenges in the face of emerging security threats in the sub-region.
The terms of reference for this meeting, as I have been privy to, are quite significant for the proper management of common boundaries, both land and maritime. More so with the nature of emerging security threats that are gradually rearing their ugly heads along the boundaries due to the rise in political unrest in some neighboring African countries. The need to jointly manage the common maritime boundaries as a tool for safeguarding the peace and security of both Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire has become even more important. This is the time for both countries to jointly demarcate, delimit, and reaffirm their common land and maritime boundaries, as well as jointly ensure the proper management of the boundaries.
Both countries hope to use the opportunity to strengthen bilateral relations. Reporting for Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Now, through no fault of theirs, a number of school children have been rendered dropouts in the now decimated Appiatse community, whilst their age mates in adjoining communities and across the country sit in classrooms and take instructions. Children between the ages of 5 and 8 in the devastated Appiatse community now non-existent and have been rendered dropouts. That's the plight of the disadvantaged children who have lost everything from stationery to uniform and footwear. The children who are now bearing the cascading branch of the January 20 disaster were seen loitering hopelessly at a makeshift camp where Latif Idris now reports.
After a devastating explosion killed over 10 people in Appiatse and leveled the community, I'm flying with a technical team led by Sector Minister Samuel Dinabo to carry out feasibility and locate a place for the construction of temporary structures for victims of the explosion. You lost it to the explosion, right? What's your name? Why are you not in school?
I didn't go to school because I lost my uniform, books, school bag, and footwear to the explosion. We appeal to government to come through for us.
In the matter of the school and the education of the children, I'm reliably informed that the municipal chief executive is on top of that matter and is examining and trying to get them into school and ensure that nobody's education gets truncated unnecessarily.
Now, Sing North Member of Parliament Joe Jachikwesin has cited the petitioner in the case for contempt. He says Michael Ankoma Nimfa lied before the Court of Appeal when he deposed an affidavit to the effect of that issue of the interpretation of Article 94(2)A and did not arise at the trial court in Cape Coast. Now, lawyer for the MP, Chachu Chikata, wants the court to commit the petitioner to contempt because the issue of Article 94(2)A did not arise at the High Court. Richard Kojonyako was in court and has filed the following report.
3 applications were before the Court of Appeal in Cape Coast on Thursday. The first was by the Ascent North MP Joe Jachikwesin, who prayed the court to commit to contempt Michael Ankoma Nimfa, his constituent, who petitioned the court that he, the MP, did not qualify at the time of filing to contest the 2020 parliamentary elections. Lawyer for the MP, Chachu Chikata, was emphatic. Mr. Ankoma Nimfa lied when he deposed to an affidavit at the Court of Appeal that the matter of the interpretation of Article 94(2)A did not arise before the trial court. Chachu Chikata contends that the matter of Article 94(2)A that talks about the qualification to be an MP was a major subject at the trial court and that it would be a lie for anybody to say that the matter did not arise in court. The panel adjourned their decision on this matter to the 22nd of March. The second issue was on the application for stay of execution pending the substantive matter, which was also adjourned to the 22nd of March. It was argued that there were some applications before the Supreme Court that have a bearing on the case at hand. The final issue before the court was the issuance of a certificate of non-compliance by the Registrar of the Court of Appeal. The MP and his lawyers are alleged to have failed to file their written submission within a stipulated period during the appeal application processes. We are back in court on the 22nd of March 2022. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kwejenyako, Cape Coast.
Now, the Central Regional Command of the Ghana Armed Forces says it has commenced investigations into the torching of houses at Interbroso in the Echumam-Punya district of the Ashanti region. The military task force set ablaze a number of excavators during an exercise to clamp down on illegal mining activities. However, some residents allege the soldiers burnt houses near the site. Emmanuel Bright-Kweku has more in the following report.
I must say, the operation was very successful, but sadly, an unfortunate incident happened during the operations. Around 07:30 hours, one of our teams deployed at Interbroso at the Echuma-Mponua district sighted 4 excavators which have been used for massive destruction on the River Ofin. These excavators were moved and parked close by the river, which is also close to the settlement. 2 excavators were set ablaze, but tragically, a close-by house which was being used by the illegal miners as a fuel storage to supply fuel for the excavators caught fire. This happened because, though the house was quite far from the burning excavators, the fuel spillage from the house to the excavators also caught fire, causing the fire to travel to the house. Fortunately enough, no lives were lost. Efforts on the part of the personnel, our personnel present to prevent the fire from reaching the house was thwarted when the locals started attacking them with stones and other offensive implements. The personnel called in the fire service around Nkawe, and on their arrival, they were equally assaulted and their fire tender destroyed. I would like to assure you that investigations would be conducted immediately to ascertain the circumstances that led to this unfortunate incident. I also want to use this opportunity to reach out to the communities. We rely on your support to eradicate illegal mining and thus save our environment. To achieve this, our communities must also play a crucial role in these operations. I would also wish to take this opportunity to impress upon the media to be cautious in their reportage on this singular situation in order not to undermine the good intent of the Ghana Armed Forces.
Labeled and abused. That's the story of the woman, Mariama Isifu, a woman with mental disability who lost her memory from a ghastly motor accident as a trained teacher with many years of practice. Her joy in recovering from the incident was to be amplified by her return to the classroom, but that won't happen. She was labeled by her colleague teachers with names that were picked up by her students. Listen.
What's worse, even before she could deal with the psychological effects of the torture and abuse she had experienced at the hand of her caregiver, Mariama found herself trapped in another emotional pressure cooker, her school.
I was hurt after the accident when I returned back to school. Children were afraid to approach me. Meanwhile, usually when I get to school, children run to me. They come and embrace me, but they were afraid. So I had to ask some of them. They told me that this madam said I had an accident and I was mad. I said, really? Do mad people look like this? Then no. I said, I'm not mad. It's just that after the accident, the impact of the accident on me made me not to sleep, and I had headaches.
Gradually, Mariama was thrown into a chronic state of depression.
I can get so depressed as I did. I can get so depressed that to the extent of me even getting up to brush my teeth is even a problem, let alone walking out of the room.
People suffering from mental health disorders and other related conditions are predisposed to depression. This is mainly because of their tendencies to withdraw completely from everyone else and keep to themselves.
So those were excerpts of our latest Hotline documentary, Mind Martyrs. The full documentary airs Monday on all Joy News platforms. Now, Ghana is losing out on attaining the Sustainable Development Goal SDG 10, which aims at ending hunger, poverty and inequality by 2030. That is why there is pressure mounting on government to immediately release funds for beneficiaries of the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty LEAP. LEAP is one of Ghana's flagship social protection programs that provides bi-monthly cash payments to extremely poor households in all districts of the country. Currently, 344,023 households benefit from the cash grants per the 2020 budget statement, but an impact analysis by civil society organizations consisting of the Social Accountability Forum, Civil Society Platform for Social Protection, and the Civil Society on SDG 10 has revealed that there have been unexplained delays in release of funds to beneficiaries by government. Mohammed Abdullahi is the communications officer of Send Ghana, speaking to Joy News on the sidelines of a press conference here in Accra.
Somewhere 2019 up till now, we have noticed that the payments have been delaying. There are times that it delays for like more than 2 months, and already they are supposed to be receiving this support every 2 months, that is bi-monthly. And so it means that when a particular payment cycle delays, it means that the beneficiaries end up getting their support in like 4 months. And what is the amount involved? We are talking about just a 64 Ghana cedi for a beneficiary, a household that has just one beneficiary, a household. So we are saying that you and now agree that in the face of this economic hardship, somebody who relies on only 64 Ghana cedis every 2 months has not received such amount for like 4 months. You can reason with us How is the person faring? What are they feeding on? How are they able to meet their education and the occupants of their household? So those are the kind of things that we think that these are people, they don't have the voice. If they had the voice, I'm sure you and I wouldn't have been here, because they would remind government to fulfill its obligation towards them. You are aware that university teachers are on strike. Transport unions, student bodies, all going on strike because they have the voice to speak. Vulnerable groups that I talked about, none of them has a voice. So it is you and I who can actually remind the government of its obligation towards these poor people, so that at least pay them. If there are practical challenges why you are not releasing funding for their payment, it is okay to communicate to the people. Just let them understand this is the current situation. We all know we are not in normal times, but we need to strive to still do things in a normal way. So for the last payment cycle, which is the 75th, was supposed to have been done in November last year. That had not been transferred. Now we are talking about the 76th cycle that was also due in January. It has not been paid. The 77th cycle will also come, will be due somewhere in April or March, April. Yet government has not paid those two areas with the beneficiaries. Like I'm asking, how are we expecting them to fare in the face of this COVID? So two payment tranches, two cycles, which is the 75th and 76th. Are you talking about the amount involved? No, we are not in the position to, like my colleague said, it is the government that transfers the amount, but we can do the individual kind of beneficiary package. For example, if it is just one person, the person receives like 64 cedis every 2 months. If it is two, I think it's 77 Ghana cedis. 3 is 88, and then 3 or more, like 4 or more, is 106 Ghana cedis. That is for every 2 months. Of course, we have over 34,000. I think. No, I'm coming. We have about 344,000 households. So when we're talking about household, you can have a household that has more than one beneficiary. So the 334,000 households actually translate into about over 1.5 million individual beneficiaries.
Some members of the New Patriotic Party in the Fomena constituency in the Ashanti region are aggrieved at the suspension of the internal party elections. They have issued a one-week ultimatum to the national executives of the party to respond to allegations of creating room for Andrew Zamogo to contest as an unopposed parliamentary candidate in the 2024 elections. Leader Michael Ankapon, who is the Dompasi polling station youth organizer, says they will embark on a peaceful demonstration to demand transparency and accountability if leadership fails to respond to their concerns. A report by Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin.
The concerned members of the NPPC attempts by the party hierarchy to impose Andrew Samoa on them is illegal because he has forfeited his NPP membership after he stood as an independent candidate in the 2020 parliamentary election.
Party hierarchy at the national level to impose Honorable Amakwesiama, the independent member of parliament of Fomena constituency, on the party in the 2024 elections. These attempts are what we believe have culminated in the suspension of the internal party elections in the Fomena constituency. For the avoidance of doubt, the constitution of the NPP provides in Article 3, Clause 9, subsection 1, and as follows: a member of the party who stands as an independent candidate against the officially elected member of the party, or who joins or declares his or her support for another political party or in for another independent candidate, when the party has sponsored a candidate in a general or by-election, automatically forfeit his or her membership of the party. You will recall that Honorable Asiama was the NPP MP for Fomena from 7 January 2017 until his seat was declared vacant on or around 7th November 2020 parliamentary election as an independent candidate. At the time when the party had duly elected a parliamentary candidate. Despite the fact that Honorable Asiama subsequently won the election and chose to do business with the NPP group in parliament,
There is no doubt that he is no longer a member of the NPP, and neither are his close associates who campaigned vigorously and openly for him in the 2020 elections. This is in accordance with Article 3, Clause 9 of the NPP Constitution, which, to the best of our knowledge, is still in effect.
The group says the suspension of the internal party elections in Fomena constituency is unacceptable.
We respectfully request to be furnished with responses to the following within 1 week. 1. A formal written explanation from the National Executive Committee of the NPP as to why internal party elections in Fomena constituency have been suspended. 2. A formal written communication from the National Executive of the NPP of the purported decision to impose Honorable Amakwe Siama on the party in the 2024 election, even though he is not a member of the NPP in light of Article 3, Clause 9 of the NPP's Constitution. 3. A formal written communication of the purported decision to allow Honorable Siama's close associates and supporters, all of whom are not members of the NPP, in accordance with Article 3, Clause 9, Subsection 1 of the NPP's party's constitution, to contest in the internal party elections in Fomena constituency. Failure to furnish us with responses to the aforementioned will leave us no option but to embark on a peaceful demonstration against the party throughout Fomena constituency in the coming weeks, to demand transparency and accountability and for the right thing to be done.
Leader of the group, Michael Ankampong, wants the party's constitution, which is its supreme law, be adhered to by all party members. The group says they will resist any attempt to impose Mr. Siama on the party.
We will resist any attempt to impose Honorable Amakwe Siama and his close associate on the party with all our strength and with all our might, if due processes is not followed. So help us God. God bless us all. God bless the NPP. God bless our own.
They call on the party leadership to ensure that internal party elections are held in the Fomena constituency in a free and fair manner before the regional party elections. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Let's take you to the Volta region now. The North-Ton's MP Samuel Kujetua Blackwell is pushing for the scrapping of the law which criminalizes false publication in the country following the arrest of some media persons in the country on those charges. According to him, the provision in the law is a subtle reintroduction of the repealed criminal libel law. His call comes on the back of concerns raised by the Tamale North MP Alhassan Suini over the alleged attack on press freedom. The statement, which expressed worry over the recent trend, also called on the House to condemn same, but the majority caucus disagreed. In their view, the media should be more responsible in their reportage. Here are excerpts of what transpired on the floor of Parliament.
We all know the Media Commission has a lot of ethics, code of ethics, control measures that all of us can play within the institutional framework of the Constitution. Having said that, the media has played a critical role, as I said, trying to narrate the antecedent of this country coming from the military rule to democracy in the 1992. The role that media men played. We can mention the names. But we've gotten to a point where, Mr. Speaker, as you really said before, if we are not careful, this unbridled approach where it is like open to all, anything at all comes out of anybody, and we are not obliging to the constitutional framework and controls, Mr. Speaker, we'll get to a point where this country will get out of hand.
It is therefore tragic that despite the repeal of the criminal libel law, the earned pride of a president for his role, both in opposition and later as Attorney General, and his professed choice for noisy, boisterous, sometimes querulous media over the monotonous, praise-singing, sycophantic one of yesteryears, that we are yet able to find justice for Ahmed Swale, an undercover journalist who was gunned down after his identity was compromised by, unfortunately, a member of this honorable house at a time he and his colleagues premiered their investigations into Ghana football and exposed grand corruption and collusion. Mr. Speaker, For the first time in our Fourth Republic, over 100 radio stations got shut down for what authorities say were regulatory breaches, despite a widely held perception that it was politically motivated, selective, and targeted at media that was critical of government. The Speaker, as of now, I have lost count of the number of state-sponsored or state complicity in the arrest, harassment, and detention of journalists in the last couple of years.
It is not for nothing that the media has been raised and described as the fourth estate of the realm, having considered the executive, the judiciary, and legislature. They have been considered as another unofficial arm of the governance structure of every country. If their work and the work of civil society is so threatened by such acts as ably raised by the maker of the statement, it tends to endanger our democracy. And this must not be happening at the time when research, Mr. Speaker, clearly shows that unemployment in a certain bracket of our population, which is the youth, is so high. If they cannot express themselves, if they feel that expressing yourself is so endangered in a democratic situation, then people will end up resorting to other means that will not progress our democracy.
We can now hear from Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who's asking the Attorney General, Godfred Ami, to initiate steps towards scrapping the law.
I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the time has come for us to repeal those sections of the Criminal Code, Section 207, Section 208, relating to false publications. It's clearly reintroducing the criminal libel through the back door. And I will appeal to the Attorney General to take steps to have that repealed. If the Attorney General will not do it, I believe that the Right Honourable Speaker may soon have to grant leave for some private member intervention so that we will repeal that aspect of the criminal code. Because I agree with the Media Foundation for West Africa. I agree with civil society organizations who are saying that if you feel that some false publication has been made and it affects your person, like in the case of the first and second ladies, in the case of Bobie and Son, you have civil remedies. You can go to court with a defamation suit, and the courts, if it is confirmed that indeed you have been defamed, they will take steps to have your reputation, which has been injured, restored.
The Adaklu district in the Volta region has recorded an increase in indicators in the health sector in 2021. Now, the district recorded an increase in antenatal care, skilled delivery, routine immunization coverage, family planning, OPD attendance, while maternal mortality remained at 0, among others. This was revealed at the 2021 District Annual Performance Review meeting at Adaklu Chirpe. There's more in the following report.
Healthcare delivery in the Adaklu district is challenged with a lack of transport, medical logistics, office equipment, furniture, among others.
As a health worker, in delivering our duties, mostly our challenge has been funding of programs. And then, let's say if you want to go out to the community to do health education, on any health education, you need money, you need funds to be able to pay for your fuel and any other like your transport to the places to be able to deliver.
However, this development did not deter health workers from giving off their best, leading to an increase in health indicators in 2021. The Adaklu District Health Director, Charles Azagba, said the directorate is poised to improve on this in 2022.
From the indicators or from the analysis, we realize that there is an improvement in all our indicators as compared to the year 2020. For instance, when you look at antenatal coverage, it has increased from 51.3% to 66.7%. And one major improvement was in the area of immunization, where we have seen improvement from 71.2 to 84% in 2021. So I would say that apart from teenage pregnancy, we have seen much improvement in all our indicators: ANC, skill delivery, postnatal care, family planning. Yeah, for the directorate, we just want to continue with the activities that we're carrying out so that we maintain that we want to see much more improvement in all these indicators. You see that even though we have improved, we have not reached 100%. So we ensure that once we continue with these strategies that we put in place, we should be able to get to around 100%.
He detailed that efforts are being made to reduce teenage pregnancy in the district.
From 2019 to 20 to this 2021, we have seen some increase, or the teenage pregnancy has actually increased in the district. From that 12 to 13, and at the end of 2021, it has increased to 18%. We may say this is due to this COVID-19 pandemic. Rather, when the COVID-19 came in 2020, we were not able to do much because we were not supposed to have meetings, conferences, etc. So we stopped meeting these adolescents from 2020 to 2021, and that's why you have seen this increase in the teenage pregnancy. And we believe that this 2022, we're going to work on this. We started meeting the adolescents. Once we are observing the COVID-19 protocols, we'll be meeting them and engage them in so many activities so that by the end of the year, we should see some reduction in the teenage pregnancy. Close collaboration with the District Assembly as well as our member of Parliament. It's also helping so much in the area of infrastructure.
Some best performing health workers were identified and honored. The Adaklu district placed 6th among the 18 municipalities and districts on the ranking of selected holistic assessment indicators in the Volta region. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Adaklu, Chirpe.
The Paramount Chief of Techiman Traditional Council, Sadeyo Akumfi Amel IV, has charged the Economic and Organized Crime Office to collaborate with other state agencies to bring to book persons engaging in cyber and organized crimes across the country. He says the move would help instill investor confidence as well as help promote government's digitalization agenda. He made this call when the Executive Director of Yoko, T.O.P. Mami Yatiwa Adudankwa, paid a courtesy call on him as part of a familiarization visit to the Bono East region. And Asabit has more in the following report.
Cybercrime has become a cankerworm eating very deep into social fiber of the Ghanaian youth. Research findings on the profile of cybercrime in Ghana paint a very worrying picture which calls for concern. This even gets more disturbing considering the fact that Ghana is named amongst the top 10 countries in the world with high cybercrime prevalence. The president of the Techiman Traditional Council and Bono East Regional Representative at the Council of State, Osiadeyo Akumfi Amel IV, is therefore appealing to the Economic and Organized Crime Office to collaborate with other state institutions to bring to book people involved in organized crimes across the country.
I'm urging her to collaborate with Financial Intelligence Center, Bank of Ghana, National Security and National Communication Authority, so that we can nip in the bud a criminal gang or syndicate operating in the country, stealing electronic value being traded by Momo merchants and vendors. They have also managed to enter the banking system, and when things of this nature happens, people tend to lose interest in the banking system, and if these nefarious activities are not nipped in the bud, at the end of the day, the digitization agenda by the government will not see the light of the day.
The traditional ruler and lawmaker made this appeal when the executive director of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, COP Mamiya Tiwa Dankwa, paid a courtesy call on him as part of her familiarization visit to the Borno East region. He further expressed worry at the effects of electronic crimes on general trading activities within the Techiman municipality.
It will make the place unpopular, and traders, virtually you come, I also come, and then we exchange goods and then money. Is that not it? But if you are coming and then only to end up losing your money, next time you will not bring your goods to sell. So apart from the armed robbery, these electronic crimes too have to be tackled.
The new Iyoko boss on her part noted that her outfit is working together with other stakeholders to divert the minds of the youth away from engaging into internet fraud and its related activities.
We are now working together with the National Cyber Crime Authority, the National Communication Authority, and other stakeholders to look at how best we can help to take the youth minds away from cybercrime. Because when you look at the cases that are coming from development partners, most of the people who have become victims are from foreign countries, and it doesn't speak too well of us as a country. So we need to work seriously hard to just divert the minds of the youth from those kind of activities to profitable and valuable activity that will help them in their future.
Borno East Regional Minister Kwesi Edujan bemoaned the fact that organized crime is rampant in the Techiman municipality and asked that the new regional Iyoko office will help minimize crime in general within the region.
As we are aware, Techiman, for that matter, is an area that this organized crime can easily, find its route or can be nurtured. So if we have her coming to the region at such a time as this, then we know that we'll be able to mobilize and organize ourselves so that we'll be able to meet some of these criminal activities and then get it out of the way before they manifest. There's going to be more personnel, there's going to be more logistics, and there's going to be an enhancement on their activities. So that in itself is a plus to us.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Techiman.
Let's make it easy to impeach a bad president. That's the call by co-founder of governance think tank CDD Ghana, Professor Bafo Ajimandua. Professor Ajimandua says that can only happen when the 1992 Constitution is reviewed to strip the president of what he describes as, quote, excessive power. There have been calls for a review of the Constitution, but President Akufo-Addo has kicked against it. But Professor Bafo Ajimandua says the review is critical to ensure good governance. He spoke in Accra at a national security seminar series on elections and governance in West Africa.
If we are asking for constitutional reform, that is one thing we have to look at. That flexibility. But having said that, though, it's important to say if you give a longer tenure, then you should have the mechanism to check and stop a bad president. So if we have 10 years or 8 years, means that whatever you do until... No. There should be mechanism for impeachment, easier mechanism, or for recall, like in Britain, if they declare a vote of no confidence, then you go to the elections and reaffirm the public's decision on you. You see, so that should be the check. So I'm not saying make it 5 years, 6 years without any checks. We will have to strengthen our accountability system to make sure you don't get Idi Amin type or Donald Trump type and mess up your country. No.
And our renewable energy experts in Africa are cautioning African governments not to rush into energy transitions without having the needed structures in place, according to the chairperson of the GNPC Petroleum Commerce, Professor Emeritus Omoye Iledare. Thinking through affordability and sustainability will do Africa a lot of good in the global energy dynamics. The GNPC Petroleum Commerce Chair has been speaking at the 7th Public Lecture Series and Awards of the Institute of Oil and Gas at the University of Cape Coast. Richard Kojinyako has more in the following report.
The 7th Public Lecture Series and Awards was on the strategic thinking and transformation options on the dawn of global energy systems transformation. Chair of the GNPC Petroleum Commerce, Professor Emeritus Omoye Iledare, cautioned African leaders to tread cautiously in their bid to get enmeshed in energy transitions and the global energy dynamics.
You cannot allow political expediency in this debate to develop a strategy for the sake of the future. You must get your brilliant mind that are more posterior in thinking than prosperity of today. What are the things we need to watch out for? One, affordability and sustainability. Cheaper power to maintain affordability is key. You see, if you don't have an experience, majority of the people advocating energy transition, they have never been to Africa to understand what we go through. So we must devise solution to our problems. Don't rush into energy transition without having structure. You don't. You don't. Otherwise, we'll continue to adjust ourselves.
Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, Professor Johnson Yakobo commended GNPC for the role it is playing in the research areas in the country.
Permit me to use this opportunity to thank the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation for the establishment of the Center of Excellence in Petroleum Commerce here in the University of Cape Coast. The vision of the Center of Excellence is to promote research, generate new knowledge, and build capacity in the petroleum and energy sector. This can be achieved through collaboration of public and private institutions in Ghana and overseas to ensure effective operations and management of Ghana's oil and gas sector. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to commend GNPC for collaborating with the University of Cape Coast for the construction of a building complex worth $5 million.
Dean of the Institute of Oil and Gas Studies at the University of Cape Coast, Professor Simon Mariwa, outlined the areas the university is focusing as far as petroleum and energy studies are concerned. Reporting for Joy News, Richard Kojinyako, Cape Coast.
And you're still live here on Joy News Prime. There's business coming your way shortly.
The UK government has indicated that it will advance more support to Ghana to help stabilize the economy. The support has been influenced by the negative impact of COVID-19. Visiting UK Minister for Africa, Vicky Ford, has been speaking to Joy Business.
A number of different African countries that have been looking at developing vaccination capability on the continent. What I think we've heard here is that their work has been more on developing potential malaria vaccines going forward. In terms of vaccine manufacturing, yes, I'd like to see some more of that on the continent, but I understand there's a partnership happening between here and Senegal, and it's actually in Senegal that the UK had been helping to put together the business case to bring in the investors to try and see some more manufacturing there. And again, I think what you need to do is keep these collaborations going, so it's been very good to hear that this Ghanaian facility is also collaborating with others.
Let's talk about trade, investment, and then support as well. Are we going to see some more support for Ghana under the country partnership program and all the rest, or it's more of a technical assistance now?
No, there's been a long-term, investment in Ghana for many, many years. So, for example, on things like girls' education, That's been an area in which we've worked with the government for many, many years. The UK is one of the biggest supporters and funders of girls' education in the world, and indeed our Foreign Secretary, only the second time we've had a woman as Foreign Secretary. She's recently announced that she wants to increase back up the funding that we've been doing globally on women and girls, so I'm sure that will continue. A big effort at the moment. The UK is involved in encouraging girls to come back to school if they've dropped out of school, because that's vital. But we've also put trade investment recently, investment, for example, through UK export finance into a number of different bridge projects across the country, which are going to help make rural connectivity, which is absolutely vital as well. I've just been seeing a lovely little project which may turn out to be a really big project, which is looking at how you have electric motorbikes, and really clever thinking about how do you use electricity using carbon-free energy, storing the electricity that's not being used from solar plants, for example, in the daytime, storing it in batteries, and then enabling a whole community of drivers to be able to come and use those batteries, share those batteries in a very efficient way. It's really forward-looking things. That's the sort of investment that the UK has been putting into little startups as well as into bigger projects.
That'll be all for our bulletin. We have international business news coming up shortly, after which the bulletin continues. To stay with us.
It's a wrap for Joy News Prime. Always be on the lookout for updates to all of our stories at myjoyonline.com. My name is Blessed Sungan. There's so much more coming your way here on the Joy News channel.